In the depths of a frigid city night, beneath the flickering glow of neon signs and the distant hum of passing cars, a solitary figure shuffled along rain-slicked sidewalks. Lena, a young woman whose life had been marred by loss and hardship, bore the unmistakable marks of life on the streets. With tangled hair and eyes that held both sorrow and defiance, she navigated the urban labyrinth in search of a shred of warmth amidst the biting cold. Clad in a threadbare coat and clutching a battered backpack, Lena's every step was measured and cautious, as though she carried with her a secret hope that one day, somehow, her fortune would change. On this particular night, as winter's chill seeped into her bones and the city whispered its melancholy lullaby, Lena's path converged with that of a stray dog whose destiny was inexplicably intertwined with her own. Rusty, a lean creature with a patchwork of matted fur and soulful eyes that shimmered with unspoken stories, emerged from the shadows of an abandoned lot. His ragged ears and wary stance betrayed years of hardship, yet in the depths of his gaze burned a quiet resilience that mirrored Lena's own. At first, the two regarded each other with a tentative distance, a shared recognition of solitude in a world that had long since forgotten kindness. As Lena approached, Rusty's eyes flickered with a mixture of caution and curiosity. The dog's ribs, visible beneath his scruffy coat, hinted at the many nights he had spent scrounging for morsels in forgotten corners. In that silent, frozen moment, an unspoken pact was formed. Lena reached into her backpack and withdrew a small stale piece of bread, her meager offering against the ravages of hunger. With a gentle murmur, she coaxed Rusty closer, her voice soft and imbued with the hope of a heart that refused to yield. Rusty, driven by a hunger not solely for food, but for the warmth of connection, edged forward. Their eyes met in the glimmering streetlight, and in that shared glance lay the promise of solace and redemption. Thus began a bond forged in the crucible of despair and nurtured by small acts of compassion. Night after night, long before the city awoke to its relentless bustle, Lena would rise and slip quietly into the darkness to find Rusty. In the hushed hours of pre-dawn, when the world was a quiet canvas awaiting the first strokes of light, she would sit on a worn park bench and share her sparse meal with him. These secret rendezvous were more than moments of nourishment. They were lifelines, delicate threads of hope, weaving together two souls abandoned by fate. Lena, despite the chill of the night and the hardships that punctuated her existence, began to find a measure of comfort in Rusty's silent companionship. And Rusty, in turn, appeared to sense the warmth of her care, his eyes softening as he accepted the gentle caresses and quiet words of reassurance that only the night could bear witness to. Yet, not all in the city embraced this newfound bond. Among the few who cared to look closer was Mr. Clayton, an older man with a lined face hardened by years of disappointment and a heart that had long ago turned wary of the vulnerable. Observing Lena's nightly excursions with a mixture of disapproval and concern, he warned her repeatedly. "You shouldn't be wasting your time with a stray," he would grumble, his voice rough and uncompromising as he passed by on his evening walk. "There's danger out there both for you and that mutt." But Lena, whose life had been defined by the cold indifference of a world that had never shown her mercy, found Mr. Clayton's admonitions little more than the echoes of an authority. That did not understand her pain. She knew that in a world where every kind word was scarce, Rusty's silent presence was a beacon, a promise that she was not alone. As winter deepened and the nights grew ever colder, Lena and Rusty's bond strengthened. The stray dog, once a ghost wandering the urban night, became Lena's steadfast guardian and confidant. In the alleys and underpasses where the city's harsher realities loomed, Rusty would trot beside her, alert and protective. His keen senses would pick up the murmur of trouble, a scuffle in a dark corner, or the distant approach of unfriendly voices, and his body would tense, a silent alarm that resonated in Lena's heart. There were times when, amidst the loneliness of the urban sprawl, Rusty's mere presence would remind Lena that hope could be found in the most unexpected places. One fateful evening, as Lena made her way along a deserted stretch of pavement, a sudden commotion shattered the fragile peace of the night. a group of rough-looking individuals, their intentions cloaked in malice, had set their sights on Lena. Their jeers and taunts, sharp as broken glass, filled the air as they closed in with predatory determination. In that heart-stopping moment, fear surged through Lena like a tidal wave. Fear not only of physical harm, but of the bitter loneliness that had defined her existence. Yet before the threat could materialize into a full-blown assault, Rusty sprang forth from the shadows with an urgency that belied his worn frame. With a ferocious bark that echoed against the cold concrete walls, he lunged at the would-be attackers. The scene unfolded with cinematic intensity. Rusty, teeth bared and eyes blazing with protective fury, met the cruelty of the assailants head-on. The attackers, startled by the unexpected resistance of a determined stray, faltered and fled into the dark maze of the city. In the aftermath, Lena sank to her knees, heart pounding, and eyes brimming with tears of both terror and gratitude. In that single dramatic act of valor, Rusty had not only shielded her from harm, but had also illuminated the profound depths of their connection, a connection that transcended words and bridged the gap between broken hearts. In the days that followed, the tale of Rusty's bravery began to circulate among the night dwellers and the few compassionate souls who still believed in miracles. Lena, whose heart had long been resigned to the shadows, started to sense that perhaps the universe was finally offering her a chance to rewrite her story. It was during one of these fragile mornings, as she and Rusty shared their customary meal, beneath the flickering light of a street lamp, that Lena noticed a figure approaching from the distance. Cloaked in a long coat and carrying an air of both determination and regret, the newcomer's eyes locked with Lena's in a moment that felt suspended in time. This was Daniel, a man from a chapter of Lena's past that she had thought long closed. Years ago, Daniel had been not only a friend, but a beacon of hope, a reminder of brighter days before the weight of misfortune had forced her onto the unforgiving streets. His return, unexpected and laden with remorse, stirred a tumult of emotions within Lena. The reunion was tentative at first, laden with awkward silence and unspoken questions. But as Daniel recounted the events that had led him back to the city, his own journey through loss, regret, and eventual redemption, a fragile bridge began to form between them. Lena listened, her heart softening as the bitter remnants of past hurts were slowly replaced by the possibility of reconciliation. Meanwhile, Rusty remained ever watchful, his eyes tracking every nuance of the unfolding reunion. In the quiet interludes between Lena's tentative conversations with Daniel, the stray dog would curl up at her feet, a living reminder that even in the midst of change, some bonds remained unbreakable. Over the ensuing weeks, as Daniel and Lena tentatively rebuilt the trust that had once defined their friendship, Lena began to see glimmers of a future she had thought unattainable. With Daniel's help, she managed to secure a modest job at a local diner, a small but significant step toward reclaiming the life that had been so cruelly stripped away. The work was hard, the hours long, and the challenges many. Yet every evening as Lena returned to her humble shelter beneath a crumbling overpass, Rusty was there waiting, his tail wagging softly in silent welcome. His unwavering loyalty, a constant amid the uncertainty of life on the fringes, became the steady rhythm that set the pace for Lena's slow but sure recovery. As autumn melted into winter and the city's relentless pace softened under a blanket of quiet snow, Lena's transformation became ever more evident. The days of wandering aimlessly through cold, dark alleys were gradually replaced by the routines of work, small moments of self-care, and the cautious rebuilding of trust in both people and herself. Daniel, whose reappearance had initially stirred conflicting emotions, soon proved to be a steadfast ally, a bridge to a past that Lena had once cherished, and a guide to a future that shimmered with the promise of second chances. In the soft glow of early mornings and the gentle embrace of dusk, Lena would often pause to reflect on the strange twists of fate that had brought her to this moment. Saving Rusty on that bitter, lonely night had been more than an act of compassion. It had been the spark that ignited her own will to live, to fight, and to dream once again. One particularly poignant evening, As Lena sat by a flickering streetlight outside the diner after a long shift, she found herself overwhelmed by the quiet power of her own journey. Rusty lay beside her, his eyes half closed in contentment as he basked in the warmth of her presence. In that stillness, Lena recalled every hardship, every cold night, and every tear shed in solitude. But intertwined with those memories was the undeniable truth that love, silent, steadfast, and unexpected, had come to her rescue. It was a truth that shimmered in the soft murmur of the city's heartbeat and in the gentle rhythm of Rusty's steady breathing. In that moment of introspection, Lena understood that the night had given her far more than shelter from the cold. It had granted her a friend who, in his own way, had saved her from the abyss of despair. As winter yielded to the tentative warmth of early spring, Lena's newfound stability blossomed. With the steady income from her job, she managed to secure a small room above a quiet street, a safe haven that, though modest, radiated the promise of a fresh start. Daniel, ever supportive, helped her furnish the space with second-hand treasures and hopeful reminders of better days. Rusty, now a permanent resident in this humble abode, roamed freely through the tiny rooms as if he too sensed the transformation that had taken root in Lena's life. Together they forged a new existence, one where every sunrise brought with it the promise of renewal, and every whispered goodnight was a testament to the enduring power of compassion. In time, Lena's story began to ripple beyond the confines of her immediate world. Neighbors, once indifferent to the plight of a homeless soul and her scruffy companion, started to notice the change. Acts of unexpected kindness emerged from the unlikeliest corners: a warm meal offered at the diner, a friendly smile on a cold morning, a donated blanket that spoke of quiet generosity. Each gesture, no matter how small, added a vibrant hue to the tapestry of Lena's once dim world. And through it all, Rusty remained by her side, a silent guardian whose gentle eyes reflected the deep bond that had grown between them. The city, with all its harsh edges and hidden sorrows, had unwittingly become the stage for a profound transformation, a story of redemption, resilience, and the magic that unfolds when hearts dare to care. Lena, who had once been swallowed by the indifference of urban life, had rediscovered her inner strength through the unwavering loyalty of a stray dog named Rusty. In saving him from a fate of loneliness and neglect, she had unwittingly set in motion the chain of events that led to her own salvation. Their intertwined destinies had become a living testament to the idea that sometimes the act of saving another soul is the very act that saves your own. And so, beneath the vast, star-strewn canopy of a city reborn in the gentle light of hope, Lena looked out of the window of her small sanctuary with a heart full of gratitude and quiet determination. The echoes of the past of cold nights, harsh words and lonely struggles had been replaced by the steady promise of a future forged in the fires of compassion and nurtured by the tender care of a friend. Rusty lay contentedly at her feet, his once wary eyes now softened by the warmth of belonging, a living reminder that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to create miracles. In the end, Lena's journey was not just a tale of survival in a cold, indifferent city. It was a story of how two lost souls found each other in the darkness and lit the way toward a brighter tomorrow. With each passing day, as Lena built a new life from the shattered fragments of her past, she carried with her the unwavering belief that love, loyalty, and unexpected kindness could transform even the most desolate of lives. And as Rusty, ever faithful, remained at her side, it became clear to all who knew her story that sometimes the act of saving a stray can be the spark that saves a life. Let this narrative serve as a gentle reminder. In every act of compassion, there lies the potential for extraordinary transformation. In the quiet moments when hearts align in understanding and hope, miracles are born. For Lena and Rusty, the night that once threatened despair became the dawn of a new beginning, a beacon of light that whispered to the world that every life, no matter how lost or forgotten, holds within it the capacity to change, to love, and to inspire. And in that light, we are all called to extend a hand, to open our hearts, and to remember that kindness, in its simplest form, is the most powerful force of all.